Thank you, Chrissy. My knees aren't up to this step here. I was just talking with my fellow director, Andy Warland, and Andy said to me, Phil, we're the only graphite company squeezed in between all these rare earths and lithium companies. And I said, that's because we're the ugly sister. And he said, no, we're not the ugly sister, we're the sleeping beauty. Well, given that there is some up to 10 times more graphite in a lithium-ion battery than there is lithium, and given that just about every single kilogram of battery anode material comes out of China in one way or another where it's processed, I think it's time for the sleeping beauty that is the Western graphite industry to wake up. So I just want to give you a bit of history because we are a new company on the ASX. We evolved out of a service company, Battery Limits, that specialises in graphite processing. Battery Limits have been doing many of the feasibility studies for ASX-listed and London-listed companies throughout Africa and Australia. And during that time, we were spending a lot of time in the Middle East doing feasibility work. We realised clearly that there is no other country in the world that is producing downstream graphite battery anode materials outside of China, where in one way or another it is processed. So it became apparent that there was a great opportunity. And while also looking at the Middle East, we were looking at Australia as well, and we selected Collie as our preferred downstream processing site. In September last year, we entered into discussions with Comet Resources and vendored the Springdale Graphite resource that is located near Hopetown here in Western Australia, down south, into our company, and on the back of that, we listed in April this year. So our vision is to be Western Australia's first integrated mine-to-market producer of battery anode materials. Our resource is long life, shallow. It has a high-grade zone of up to 17% graphite. Our Collie downstream planning established an R&D facility. We've already done that, and I'll show you that. We've established the first pilot plant of its kind, to our knowledge, in Australia. We will be planning to do micronizing in Collie to produce purified spherical graphite and then to coat that purified spherical graphite in Collie. The fact that we're fully contained within Western Australia gives us stewardship over our product from the mine to the customer, and it gives us ESG control right through that process. As it's been pointed out before, WA has just been recently voted as the #1 mining jurisdiction in the world, and due to our backgrounds, we have a team of highly experienced metallurgists and engineers who are working on this. So the one scary thing about these supply-demand curves is that, and this one's by Benchmark, our minerals intelligence, is that from about here, go back, which is, how do I go back? I'm only an engineer. Is that, and which is the pointer, the little one? I won't worry. But the green button? Ah, beautiful, thank you. Is that from about 2026-27, the demand curve takes off like this. And this is all the known supplies. Now, what it means to me is, where is this supply going to come from? You know, is it going to be commodity shortage that really holds up the battery industry and the EV industry? So our board, Matthew O'Kane from Comet and Andy Warland, they are our commercial, corporate people with decades of experience behind them. Myself and Dave Pass, we're the technical people on the board, and the board is very much technically driven. Supporting us are the Battery Limits engineering team. We have partnerships with graphite technology companies in Germany, in the US, and we are getting equipment supply out of Canada. And for the 4 years that we've been working on this prior to listing, and still we have we believe, preeminent marketing graphite expert, a man called Chris Whiteley, who lives in Texas. And between us, it's a strong team that's taking us forward. We've got 165 million shares on issue. Market cap's around 55 million or so. We got $9 million in the bank, and 41% of the shares are controlled by the board and management, and which are all under 24 months of escrow. So I won't go into this slide too much because we've talked about it, but it's a really good place to be based in Western Australia. The fact that I can drive to both sites is so convenient, it's so great. And there has been so much government support. The federal government has it committed well over $200 million to a couple of the graphite companies, the proposed graphite developers last year, and we would like to think that's going to continue. The WA government has already awarded us a $2 million grant to help us establish our Collie facility. Just a little bit on the actual resource. It has been drilled out to an inferred resource at 15.6 million tonnes at 6%, or 2.5 million tonnes high-grade zone contained therein at about 17%, which is very high grade. And that gives us a great kick-off. The exciting thing about this is that all of the previous work that was done was not done with the benefit of EM surveys. Those electromagnetic surveys, they're really good for identifying graphite targets, and there is such huge potential, we believe, to increase that resource. We're currently doing 7,000 metres until we got washed out down there of RC and diamond drill holes, and we will be announcing some of those results in the near future. So at Springdale, it's a simple operation. It's crushing, grinding, flotation to produce a concentrate of around about 95%, and then that'll be trucked to Collie for downstream processing. Now, at Collie, I'll just go back a step. So graphite, it has different value depending on the characteristics of the deposits, and particularly coarse flake graphite it attracts a premium. Coarse flake graphite is used very much in making the foils for, like, every computer, every phone has got a heat sink foil in it, and that's the main use there. Our graphite is not coarse, it is fine, but the fine flake graphite is spot on for use in battery anode materials and industrial products. So our process, we will be at Collie receiving our graphite concentrates at around 95%. We will then be micronising them, and to micronise them is to break down the size to around 10 to 20 micron type size. The next machine spheroidises those. So what it does, if you can imagine, you've got like a sphere of very fine material. You then purify that to, it's got to be greater than 99.95% for battery anode applications. And the final step, which really adds the value, if you consider a spheroid of graphite like a golf ball with all its lumps and bumps, the coating smooths it all off. And so that in that smoothing, it makes it more conductive and a better battery material. At the same time, we're developing an industrial processing line. That's micronising and purifying, and that goes into all sorts of engineered products and conductive cathodes and lubricants, etc. Collie's turned out to be a terrific strategic decision. We're really well supported by the community, we're supported by the government, and with the changes that are happening in Collie with regard to the shutdown of the power stations, We're getting really a lot of support, and also we'll have good access to people. We have already installed our pilot plant. It is, I think, the only one of its kind in Australia, and it is there to demonstrate our capability to produce spheroidized and micronized graphite and to get that into the marketplace. We are starting first off with imported feedstock until we get our Springdale mine up and running. So you can consider we've got 3 lines of development. The first is feasibility studies for our Springdale mining and beneficiation project. The second is the development of a Collie industrial graphite production plant. And thirdly, feasibility studies for our Springdale Collie battery anode materials production. This table outlines our strategy. So our industrial products, we expect to have those online next year, our first line of that, and then we will expand that. That goes into, as I say, cathode conductive materials, polymers, specialist lubricants, engineered products, and it has a value of somewhere between, they have a value between $1,000 and about $5,000 a tonne. From Springdale, by 2024, we will be producing a concentrate. That concentrate, in our case, is worth about $700 to $800 a tonne. The value-adding step, the first value-adding step, is to convert it to purified spherical graphite, and that brings the value up to around $3,500 to $4,000 a tonne, albeit that you need about 2.2 tonne of feedstock for every tonne of battery anode material. And then the real cream is to coat that material, and then that same material increases in value to $8,000 plus per tonne. So looking through our strategy there, by 2024-25, we expect to be producing purified spherical graphite, and the following year or so, coated material. So our planning, our first drilling campaign, it started in June, and in fact, we have finished that, subject to the fact that we couldn't get quite through it because of the rain. First assay results will be out sometime in the next month. We expect to have an updated resource, Q4 of this year. Our pre-feasibility study completed by the middle of next year. Definitive feasibility study by the end of next year, and then a finance investment decision in early 2024. On the Collie facilities, we've installed our pilot plant. We expect to have first product out in the near future. We will have a micronizing first line of production during the first half of 2023. Our pre-feas study up by the same time. Our definitive study by the end of 24, by the end of 23, sorry, by Q1 2024, and our finance investment decision shortly after that. So thank you very much.